Please sign
Okay,
in.
I'll call this meeting to order at 5:30. It's a meeting of a joint meeting of the Planning and Development Subcommittee and the Town Council. It's Wednesday, October 11th, 2023, 5:30 PM. We're here in the Veterans Room. First order of business is call to order. Second order of business is roll call. Councilor Adams,
Present.
Councilor Rivas, absent. Citizen LaRochelle,
Here.
Citizen Bernadone, excused. Councilor Daniel, present. Very good. Item number 3, review, discuss acceptance of the award of the Massachusetts Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs, the EEA, Planning Assistance Grant to support the creation of a Southbridge Housing Production Plan for $20,000 and allow the town manager to sign all related documents. Entertain a motion to recommend town council acceptance of the award.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Councilor Adams, seconded by Dee Dee. Mr. Manager,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
So, tonight's planning and development, thank you for squeezing us in at 5:30 today. I'm gonna turn this all over to Katie and Peg, because this really is all their department.
Very good.
So, me trying to keep up with them has been a task. They keep me on my toes, but I'll just defer to them. Thank you.
Okay. Which one of you would like to address it? Okay, Katie, go ahead.
The only update from when we were requesting to apply for this grant is that at that point we were estimating for the local matching funds to be $5,000 from town council reserves, and now with our estimate of using staff hours as applicable matching source, that we would probably only need $2,600 in matching from town council reserves. And I think, I've included on the memo how we estimated those hours based on town planner hours and then my position, CDBG coordinator hours. And the information on the housing production plan itself, it's the same to address current housing issues and how some data would help us get future funding to help with affordable housing and other concerns, and to help meet the safe harbor baseline so that the town has more say in 40B development projects. And I also included a link to Auburn, their housing production plan from 2017, and they're actually in the process of getting theirs updated, I believe this year. So they're sort of a similar sized town, and that's sort of an example of what this housing plan would look like should we accept the award.
What's that? Very good. Peg?
Yeah, so we are a little more knowledgeable than we were when we first came to you with the housing production plan with regards to the 40B details. So we are at 6.08% with the Wells School. Should all of the AO properties, 5, 25, 40, and 50 optical, be affordable housing or subsidized housing, that would bring us to just about 10%. It's my understanding that not every single one of those units will be affordable, so I still think we will be under. This will, again, be a safe harbor in conjunction with meeting a certain percentage of housing units, affordable housing units, going on to being deeded within a year. And we would sort of have this, a break from being 40B. And then with regards to the why now, it's my opinion that the department should have been doing, overseeing some kind of housing production plan all along. It's something Sandy Ackley had advocated for, and so we're now making it our priority.
All set? Okay, Mr. Manager?
Well, just in regards to the $5,000 being set aside in May, that obviously was not set aside, so it would come out of under this year's town council reserves, because it wasn't allocated, it wasn't encumbered, so it would be out of this year's town council reserves.
Very good. Questions from the committee?
So, well, I was gonna just bring up, I understand we want to set aside from the council reserve. We do have some ARPA funds that are left over, and this would be a perfect example of why we want to do it, to better our infrastructure within the town. You want us to maybe at our next meeting, take a look at reimbursing the council reserve so it could be used for something else later on in the fiscal year?
Yeah, certainly, there's a lot of these programs that would come in here today, when we put these agendas together, we targeted, because we're working with the finance department to get a handle of where our accounts lie and closing out the end of the year from last year. My thought process was, let's at least get it on the agenda with a funding source. If there's an alternative funding source, something like this, there's the energy grant that's coming up next with the chargers, there's a potential match. Those are obviously good things for the town, that would fit into ARPA at short money. I would certainly welcome that strategy.
Okay, all right.
What's that, Counselor?
Thank you.
Counselor Shaney.
I wasn't on council when this first came around, so what actually is this?
Yeah, so it is a grant through the Executive Office of
Energy and Environmental Affairs, the EEA.
the EA, to fund a housing production plan. So we would hire probably our local regional planning agency, CMRPC, to develop this plan for us. It would involve some community engagement, learning about our current housing stock and current concerns about housing from residents, and then developing some sort of guidelines for what we might do to meet the needs as our community identifies them.
And specifically, some of our personal interests are things like, how do we assess the impact of development on town services? How can we promote our more owner-occupied multifamilies? What incentivizes a property to want to be deeded as an affordable or subsidized unit? Because if they're already renting at market rate, can we get them, or at that affordable rate, can we get them to just deed that unit so we meet the threshold easier? So those would be some of the questions within the RFP for the consultant.
So the purpose of this is to help us meet that threshold?
To meet the, yes, one, two-pronged, it's that, and
Well, so you can either meet the threshold at the 10%, or if you have this plan in place, you don't have to meet it. You just have to meet increments per year, so that you don't have to be all the way at 10% in order to prevent 40B. You could just be doing 0.5% per year.
So this was originally approved when?
May, I think the first week of May.
Okay, so at that time, council, I would assume appropriated the $7,000 to match?
so at that time, we didn't know what the exact match amount was going to be, and so we left it at, if awarded, we will need a match. Yeah, you know what, that's a good question. I'd have to look back at the exact motion and minutes before town council. I'll get back to you.
My question is, if the
Yeah.
money's been approved, how come it's not coming in?
Yeah,
If I may.
Go ahead.
I think with all the changes in the finance department and town managers and interim town managers, a lot of things did not get encumbered that should have been encumbered. And that's what we're finding. We're finding bills that weren't encumbered and we're paying out of this year's budget and all that. So if it was encumbered and we're able to do that on a closeout, then certainly that would revert to free cash anyway, and we can allocate it at that time back to town council reserve if we want.
I guess my concern is it appears that we're finding more and more and more things that should have been incumbent or out in Neverland. Is there going to be a light in the tunnel at some point in time?
I certainly hope so. I do have a meeting with our person that's doing the end of the year on Friday, and we'll have a better sense then. But
So this money hasn't been encumbered at this point in time, so you're looking for the appropriation of
$2,600.
$2,600 on Monday night?
Right.
Okay.
All set? Very good. Counselor Marquetti.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So what exactly, you touched on it a little bit, exactly what are you hoping to accomplish with this grant? What is it going to be used for?
when I said two-pronged, so the one prong is the working towards preventing 40B projects. The other is so that we have established housing goals. So for instance, we need an assessment of the housing stock, and is it true that we do, that we need a certain housing stock improved and upgraded, or, you know, how much of our housing stock is truly substandard? You know, what would be a good mix? You know, do we need low income? Do we need mixed income? Do we need, you know, workforce housing? So it kind of, it helps lay out sort of what your current status is and helps you work towards goals in the future. And then you can use that towards, for instance, we saw a grant today for affordable housing. Well, this production plan would help us know of our goals, would we be interested in applying for a grant like that?
And the $20,000 would be used for what?
To hire the consultant to complete the production plan, do the assessment and help do public engagement and the report.
And the consultant would be Central Mass Regional Planning
Potentially,
Commission?
but they could be. They are an entity that can perform these services.
And then you are going to form a planning commission, like I read the Auburn document.
There's,
They formed a planning commission committee, so the consultant would report to you. And what would the committee do? Would the committee look at, what, zoning?
I don't think that's,
Environmental issues?
I don't think that's a requirement that we would have to create a commission. If that's something that we decided would be helpful for the planning process, we could, but we couldn't just have or whoever our consultant is come directly to the department as, communication works.
Well, you sent the Auburn documentation, and that's exactly what they did. They got
Yeah.
this grant, they got in a consultant, they formed a committee, the consultant advised this committee to look at different things like our zoning, changes in our zoning, changes, looking at the environmental issues, looking at safe harbor. Could you explain what safe harbor is?
So yeah, safe harbor is a reference to the 40B requirement. So that would be if 10% of our entire housing stock is deeded as affordable in the like legal
registry of deeds deeded.
sense, yeah. So that 10% is safe harbor, but if we don't have that 10% deeded, having this production plan in place allows us to achieve that safe harbor with additional, I think it's 5% per year.
0.5%, I think is what you said, yeah.
Yeah,
So
0.5%.
if you get a half a percentage of affordable subsidized units within that year, and you've got a production plan in place, you cannot have a 40B come to the ZBA and suddenly get a project approved. It's on hold. And then the next year you go through the same thing, but it's a tool to be able to prevent us from having 40Bs.
So,
Hold on.
So, just a couple more questions. You have this plan, you've had other plans. Back in January, we voted for a marketing, we got a $20,000 grant back then for some kind of marketing campaign. We put a matching fund for that, but I haven't seen that marketing campaign at all. So what happened to that grant and what happened to that matching grant?
So I can report out, if this is outside of the agenda, I can report
Yes.
out that information happily. We just signed a
Well, it is a
contract.
subcommittee meeting, so I don't think we have to be that formal.
But I just hate to take up time. I told these guys it would be a quick meeting, that we'd be done by 6 o'clock. That contract is just being created with the federal government right now. We look forward to it. It's a
Okay.
tip micro project.
All right. Okay, that's all I have.
Very good. Councilor Adams and Councilor Lazo.
Just real quick, so based on the 20,000, and now it's about $2,600 that you need from the reserve. Are we gonna receive that full 20,000? Because based on May's vote, it was from the council reserve. It was in the, for 25%, that's $5,000 that you need this fiscal year. Now, are we gonna receive that whole $20,000, but only have to pay up 2,600 for matching?
So we are receiving 15,000 because it was our match was 5,000 for a total of 20,000. So our staff hours will count towards that 5,000, and then the additional 2,600 will be added to the 15,000. So the total money that we have for a consultant is 17,600.
So I'm a little confused here. So, but you're still asking for $20,000 in this motion, and then the town council would approve it, but you're telling me it's not that amount of money.
we're accepting an award for $20,000, of which $2,600 would be our matching funds, and the other $2,400
Would be your
in in-kind services.
Okay, got it, thank you. All right,
Sorry, we should have clarified that a little more.
all right, that's all I have, thank you.
All right, Council Lazo.
On this discussion of a committee, you're not planning on having a committee. I mean,
Currently, no.
okay, because we have enough committees. I'm not a big fan of more committees. We have a committee, it's called the council. We have committees called subcommittee, where if there's anything coming out of your department, we come to P&D. So we would not have to do whatever the Auburn model was. Okay, that's fine. I'm real concerned on housing. Seems like we're building housing for Worcester, for east of Southbridge. These are not for Southbridge residents. When the WRTA bus comes in and drops off the homeless at the library, and they become our problem. If they move into, like, the Worcester Housing Authority has a big connection to Wells. Not the Southbridge Housing Authority, the Worcester Housing Authority. It's amazing how, and I like the Wells project, it's beautiful. I think the AO did a great job on the road front. It's the face of Southbridge, so it looks proper. But I see an influx where our services are gonna be impacted. Police, fire, medical, hospital, everything. So I'm real concerned on the housing front, where we're not really producing any commercial. Every time we have a commercial building, there's discussion about making it apartments, because now that seems to be the hot number for an investor. But the investors don't live here, they live in Connecticut or wherever they're from, they're just making money out of the Southbridge stock. We end up holding the bag on a lot of services, water, sewer. At some point, I saw this happen back in the 80s, we had to expand the sewer plant. The water system, you know, there are things you have to watch. So for myself, the Southbridge residents are picking up the freight on a lot of what's gonna be happening in the future. I just hope, the way you're describing the study, I came here not really hot on it, but if it's gonna do something to slow down the 40B, or even try and fight the 40B, then I'm in favor of it. But if it's to create more low-income housing, I'm not a fan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manager, and then George, Council Shannon.
Thank you, through you, to echo Council Lazo's point, that's the whole reason for this plan, is to make sure that, because right now, if we wanted to stop a 40B project, i.e. 40 to 50 optical drive, we don't have the capacity to do that. They can go, if they decide, hey, we're not gonna go the traditional financing, they can just simply say 40B, and we have no ability to do anything with the zoning. So this would help us with that process.
Yes.
Council Shannon, okay.
So-
Very good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's it.
Yeah,
That's
thank you,
right.
Mr. Chair, real quick. So I went to the planning board meeting when they had the 40-50 optical, and that was one of the things that was brought up, myself and a few others, about the services that we have to provide, police, fire, and now obviously the utility side of the house. So that's one of the concerns, and it turns out to be no longer a friendly 40B project. The state's gonna tell us what to do anyways, and we're gonna have to live with it. So I support this to move along at a slower pace, because there's a lot of towns around here that are not at that 10% or 5% or 4%. You know, the Southbridge somehow or another is, I think, making it happen, but at the same time, is it hurting our services at that? We as a council, I think we need to take a look at that. Do we need more? And how do we pay for that, even though the property taxes may go up and won't afford those
We'll cover
services? That's all I've got. Thanks.
Council Lazo.
Just a quick thought. I was at a planning board meeting and we're talking about a building down the Globe, which is the furniture shop. It used to be the old furniture shop opposite the Chinese place. They want to put apartments. It was inquired about. I go, apartments don't belong in that zone is commercial, heavy industrial. And I was told by one of the top planning board members, nobody wants to work in a factory with multi-floors. But then I go through the town of Ware, where I'm working, and every multi-floor old mill building has been refurbished for business and on all floors. And I'm sitting here saying, maybe we need to wake up over here and activate, like a lot of the AO buildings, look at the zone they're in, and then now we're gonna make it housing. We're just gonna be a bedroom community, and I don't know how they're gonna put the bill in the services.
Right.
That's the concern. Thank you.
Very good. All right, I think we've talked about this. Let's move it along a little bit. For barring any further discussion, I'd like to take a vote. All set? All those in favor? Against? You're against? Okay, 2-1. Very good. Item number 4. Review, discuss the allocation of $2,600 in town council reserve funds, account number 001132-578100, as matching funds for the planning assistance grant. Entertain a motion of town council to approve same.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, just looking for the money, right? Okay, all set? Okay. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 5. Review, discuss that the town council accept the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG, Mini Entitlement, ME, fiscal year 22-23 CDBG grant award for $1,650,000 to fund housing and commercial rehabilitation programs, open space and recreation planning, code enforcement position, and administrative expenses, and allow the town manager to sign any related paperwork. Entertain a motion to town council to approve acceptance of the grant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Adams, second by Citizen Larochelle. Katie?
Yeah, so I have a quick presentation on what this year's CDBG funding will be covering. And just, no, I think you're right.
You're okay.
You're fine.
You're okay, Peg.
Okay. A quick overview of what community development block grants, their national objective is to benefit low and moderate income residents, remediate slum and blight conditions, and in some cases address urgent economic development need. So we have identified in our mini entitlement grant that we will be doing housing rehabilitation, commercial rehabilitation, and an open space and recreation plan. And I believe housing rehab we haven't done since fiscal year 15 grant, so we're restarting that one and hoping to do 10 properties throughout town. Commercial rehab we did in fiscal year 19, and the picture up at the top is one of those projects that just went in this year. And then the open space and recreation plan will help us figure out the best course for a lot of our parks and natural spaces in town. And this is the budget for each of these activities for a total of $1,650,000. If it's just helpful to have a look at it, and I can go back to it if you want to review that.
Ms.
The
Manager.
hearing's tomorrow night, correct?
Yes, there's a hearing tomorrow night for fiscal year 20 and 21. We have some remaining funds that we're looking to reallocate for some parks-related projects, and we're looking for public input on which projects to prioritize.
Councilor Adams?
Thank you. It's one of those, I know you have the public hearing, and this is just to accept the $1.6 million, and this is for the 2 fiscal years. Are you allowed to spend those 2 fiscal years starting now, after the acceptance? Or do you still have to play the game and wait until another fiscal year?
No, we don't have to wait till another fiscal year, but we have grant startup requirements, and so this is a unique grant because it's known to have a lot of arduous tasks to open and close the grant. That's why we have a dedicated CDBG person. So it takes a little while to get it started.
And one of those, when we talk about open spaces and recreation plan, I know Councilor Marquetti for the last 5 years has worked on inadvertently so for Morris Street Park and all that kind of stuff. Is that one of the parks that we're looking at? Good, thank you.
We just met with Mike Marquetti, Mike Furnell today, and came up, we'll be meeting in November to have our initial draft of our RFP to make sure that all of the parks, his priorities are in the RFP as he would want, and then Katie and he would work together to get that out. It has a carve out for a facility study of the senior center.
Thank you.
Questions? No, Dee Dee? That's it. Okay. Council Shannon.
Housing, other code enforcement, what is that?
Yes, so, we, have been paying for, 60% of the health inspector, in our inspections office. Currently that position isn't filled, but, we still have that money allocated to be paying for that salary along with, a full-time building inspector, if we can have one hired.
So, that money is being allocated for those jobs that we don't have filled.
Correct.
Administration, 200,000, what's that?
That is for our salaries, as the staff working on the grant.
2 years worth of salaries. It actually straddles, the 4A is part of our salaries and a housing rehab specialist over 2 years. So it looks like a heftier number, but remembering that it's a 24-month cycle.
Okay, then the open space recreation plan is gonna also include the community.
Center facilities.
It's not, it's, the senior citizens is part of that.
It's the facility itself,
Facility itself.
and the best use and repairs needed, and
So the facility
context
manager
of-
of that building is Katie, am I correct? Not Mike.
right, Mike would be, and that's a good point, Katie would absolutely be part of this also. Yeah, we'd said we want to bring in Rich and make sure that this is, everyone's on board with whatever the RFP says before we get it out.
Okay.
Yes. I'm painfully collaborative.
I just have a hard time with that housing, other, and code enforcement. We're putting money in there last year, this year, and we don't have anybody in place.
But we plan for tomorrow, not for now.
We planned for tomorrow a year and a half ago, too.
And that's why we have the extra funds that we'll be going to public hearing for. And I'm sorry, Chair, I should be
No,
asking.
no.
Well, through you, Chair, forgive me. We'll be going to the public hearing tomorrow for those extra funds from code enforcement that we haven't been able to use.
Mr. Manager.
Just through you, on that code enforcement, I had a meeting this morning with the inspection, the building, Mike Julian and the fire inspector. And part of that code enforcement is all the, 5 families and above, I believe, that we're supposed to inspect on a yearly basis or a 2-year basis. And that, when we had the previous code enforcement officer, they were the ones that were doing this. So we'll actively try to recruit a full-time enforcement. It's just been painfully hard to find either health or code enforcement officers right now, but we'll actively recruit that, and perhaps knowing that it's a 2-year commitment or more, maybe we'll be able to find somebody. But we are required to do those housing evaluations and haven't been able to.
Right. So is that, if I may continue, is part of that, the code enforcement, is part of that the building commissioner?
No.
No, just the code enforcement.
So-
The actual inspectors that go out and inspect the
So that
buildings
would
for
be
the
Mike?
annual.
It's-
Not Mike himself, another individual that would be doing that.
All right, so that's gonna be somebody,
It's totally separate than Mike. It's
okay.
another code enforcement officer.
Hmm. Yep,
Okay.
thank you.
Councilman Katie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. So the program delivery, housing program delivery, that's for what?
That is for our housing rehabilitation program, and that is a, application process that, will be opening up for the entire town.
And he asked for 4A. He wants to know
Program
what the
delivery.
program delivery is, so you
Okay.
just highlight it, cover.
Oh, yeah, and in order, to carry out this program, we are gonna be hiring a housing rehab specialist who will be, in charge of, looking at, the houses and determining what work will need to be done, scope of work, and hiring our contractors for that work. So they'll be sort of the program manager of that program. And I believe,
And a portion of that is your salary.
yes.
a bulk of her day-to-day will be the housing rehab.
Wasn't that on the last one that we applied for, the last CDBG money, did we never hire anybody? for
That was for code enforcement, a building inspector for code enforcement.
So we never had a program delivery?
We've never had programs, we've had program delivery for my position under
Right.
construction, but
Okay.
never under 4A, because it was never related to housing rehab.
All right, and then the housing rehab is fixing up residents' houses, they have to have a certain, have to stay there a certain amount of time,
And they have to be income eligible.
right? And commercial rehab is
Signs awning facades.
signs, awnings,
Mhm.
500,000 for awnings?
But obviously, we want to get a lot of projects out of it. We want to beautify this town.
Okay,
It's already beautiful, we want to improve the facades, and facade projects are very expensive. So, you know, when we do a couple of facades.
I'm sorry, go
No,
ahead.
I'm sorry.
Sorry.
When we do a couple of facade projects, they tend to be large, expensive projects, so it's nice to have enough money to do bigger projects.
And have you noticed this helping at all, attracting businesses here?
I feel like there is a genuine momentum towards Southbridge. Yes, there's a buzz, people are talking about investing, people are investing. We're just, you know, we're waiting for the storefronts to finally open, we're waiting for whoever's purchased the properties to find the realtors. I'm gonna be meeting with a realtor next week to give them a list, you know, our slick about how great we are and why people should, or businesses should consider here. So it's working.
All right, thank you.
Councilor DeShania.
So, to understand, for a housing program delivery is administration cost.
For a
It's
contractor.
administration cost. It's related to hiring somebody to oversee the program or
Correct.
whatever.
Correct.
Housing rehab is the money that's going to be allocated to your hoping 10 properties, correct?
Correct.
Housing, other code enforcement, that's administration.
Inspections.
Commercial rehab is the money you're gonna spend for, the money like we did for the, awnings and things like that. Open recreation, so you got, I just find you got so much administration money,
It funds our department. I mean, the department charges the town less than 10% for its
okay,
salaries.
that's
So
what
you
I
have,
was thinking.
you have salaried positions through this grant that are bringing in, we have $12 million in active grants being paid for by your grant, right? So with that grant, you're allowed to have somebody like me who's doing the CDBG and economic development initiatives that are getting you, you know, far more for your money.
So the commercial rehab money, we can't make that a loan program like we did with the ARPA money? Can that commercial rehab be a loan program so they pay back? No, so they get the money and don't pay back unless they default on something. Am I correct?
It's a deferred payment loan that gets,
5 years.
Yeah, 5 years, but after 5 years is forgiven. And it's based on our slum blight survey that we worked very hard on over the fall, winter to rate houses, rate all the properties as fair, poor, fair, good, excellent, and the ones that are fair, poor and fair will be the only ones eligible for the funds.
Well, I guess if I may, I'm looking at the commercial rehab money as $500,000. And you're hoping to make Main Street presentable, improved.
Just,
I look at 2019, you had money of a business and it's still not even open, I guess, so,
Well,
all right, I'm good.
okay. Council Lazo.
It amazes me, we're having a lot of discussion here on administration, because if you want to not get the administration, then we have to put on a tax rate. That simple. So in other words, Peg's salary is gonna be paid for by the tax rate. The housing program delivery is a contractor that's licensed to go over to a building and administer the project, to oversee it. That's not Peg's job, and that's why that's gonna be paid for through the grant. This is like a no-brainer. This here is something that's set up where this grant is absorbing a lot of wages that we would otherwise have to pick up if we didn't have these programs. That's the way I'm looking at it. Correct me if I'm wrong, Peg.
No, and that's the way I'm asking the questions, you know, I wanna, we approve it, approve the taxpayers' money.
Any further discussion?
Just,
Council Adams.
thank you, Mr. Chair. Just remember, this is 2 years. So it's $250 that we're looking at for awnings and stuff like that. So, you know, when they're $50,000 a pop, $60,000 a pop to get the stuff up there, that money's gonna go away really quick. And I know there's requirements for administrative, there's a percentage for administration fees and stuff like that that is required to oversee the CDBG portion of this. So they're all requirements. So I'm glad to see that the Parks and Recreation side are being looked at in some of the housing. So that's all I've got. Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
No, guys.
Thank you, Amy.
Okay. Item number 6. Review, discuss the use of up to $4,500 in Town Council Reserve Funds, account number 001132-578100, which will be reimbursed to the town in full by National Grid for the cost to mail out a letter outlining the Mass Save program and allow the town manager to sign any related paperwork. Entertain a motion to Town Council to approve same.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Marichal, second by Adams. Mr. Manager.
Yes, this was a program that was brought by the Plan and Development. This really is to let people know that they're eligible for Mass Save. It has the town, we're getting a lot of emails from different providers saying, hey, we'll do this as well. So this is the National Grid's portion of it, and they're gonna reimburse us. We have the commitment. Peg was very diligent on making sure that we are getting reimbursed on this money. So that's why it's being taken out of Town Council Reserve with a plan that's being reimbursed back to us.
Great. Any discussion? Council Mike Heddy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. Why would we want to use town letterhead for Mass Save?
They wanted us to be a partner with this, to say, hey, residents, let's get out there and let's do energy conservation. You know, we have these programs. It's just their way of outreach, and there's other companies that want us to do it as well. So this is just something out there to, and it probably will come forward too when they do the aggregation plan for electricity at some point. So that's in the process as well.
So Mass Save, they send me letters all the time, Mass Save. They've come to my house before and done an assessment of my house to see how I could save electricity. So, but I don't understand why we would want to let the town, why does the town want to get involved with that? I also look at my electric bill, and there's a charge on my electric bill for Mass Save. So in fact, I'm paying for Mass Save. So to say the National Grid is going to reimburse me for something that I pay for, that doesn't make sense to me.
May I, Chair? So,
Please.
for instance, as part of the housing rehab program, we are required to tie anybody we work with into weatherization programs. Weatherization is obviously a great way to help all of our community. We want to promote it as much as we can. Showing that we're a partner helps the residents to believe in the program and have more a trusted sense for whether they want to consider the program. We want to promote it through whichever means we can.
Okay, thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present. Item number 7. Review, discuss that the town of Southbridge accept the Urban and Community Forestry Grant for $1 million and allow the town manager to sign any related paperwork. Entertain a motion to town council to approve acceptance of the grant.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Dee Dee, second by David.
So, Mr. Chairman, thank you. This was the grant that Mr. Brady had come forward and wanted to apply for, and was successful in securing $1 million for our community. So we congratulate him and the department for applying for that,
Nice job.
and getting $1 million for this program that he will probably oversee as well.
So anyway, yeah, if you want me to say anything about it, I certainly can. I think the Planning and Development Subcommittee received the letter, the copy of the letter. So it basically outlines everything that was involved in the grant. It was a competitive grant nationwide, and there was many communities in the state of Massachusetts applied for it. We were one of the 9 to actually get the grant. Another community that nearby communities that applied that didn't get it was the city of Worcester. So we should be proud of ourselves because we were able to get it. And so It's gonna deal with setting up a community forestry plan. It's a 5-year program, and we will take care of the trees in town. Removals, plantings, and management of the town's urban trees and all public trees.
Wonderful.
Mr. Chair, just congratulations, great job, thank you. Mr. Brady.
Excellent. Council McKinney.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for you. $1 million for trees, that's a lot of trees. I look around Southbridge, I don't see that we're really like a desert or anything. We have a lot of trees in this town, and I think there isn't a counselor in here who hasn't said, we want to see $1 million for our roads and sidewalks. I don't hear anybody saying, we need more trees. If you want to go for $1 million tree grant, okay, but I just would rather see us spend some more effort to get money for our roads and sidewalks. That's a lot of trees.
Could I chime in?
Thank you.
No, I don't know.
Take it.
Mr. Manager, then Council Lazo.
Through you. This department goes up to any grant that's possible, and we will support anybody that wants to get grants. We were in the queue for a $9.9 million grant for Hamilton Street that got one of 9 projects that went up to the Secretary of Transportation for the United States. And Peg will brief the whole entire council and the town on that on Monday night. However, when somebody says, I could see better uses for that money and not support that, that's where we need the support. Okay? That's where we need the support. When we go out to individuals in the community that are leaders and say, please, you have contacts, you've spoken to people, and this is a great project. So we will continue on the roads projects. We have, in the next meeting, shared streets grants to continue projects. There's millions of dollars that this department has gotten for streets as well as other things. We are working diligently, and I'm proud of every employee in this town, DPW, Plan and Development, everybody that is working hard for grants to make sure that we can improve this community. And that's what we're doing. And if there's another road grant out there, believe me, this department and this town manager and this DPW department and all our employees will work to get those grants, but we need the support of the public officials and not, I can think of better places to spend the money. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Council Lazo.
I'm not questioning the grant writer or the department. I'd like to understand, Steve, and you mentioned a lot of great things about trees. This isn't just planting trees, this is managing trees, correct?
Correct.
So in other words, because I know we run into a lot of complaints about trees on the road line that are dead. Would this money be able to be used to remove those trees before they fall into the street?
Absolutely.
So it's a tree management, it's not,
Yeah, it's
this isn't just planting, right? Okay.
Nope.
Okay, I understand it better. I thought it was
Thank you.
planting trees, I'm gonna say, yeah, we can put trees.
Can I just say one quick thing? It's a 5-year grant,
So,
so that's worth mentioning. And
Yes,
we
we
run,
know.
and we run out of tree maintenance money every year in the DPW.
Right.
Okay, Council Adams.
just bear with me, because people are gonna watch this and it sound like we're just planting trees in the town. And Council, the chair over here also brought it up, what it's for. In this, it has a summary of how the grant will be used in Southbridge. So it talks about overall health of the community by implementing a systematic program to monitor and track the size of the forest, urban forest, develop a cyclical pruning and tree care program to ensure all municipal trees are cared for, as well as planning a removal program, provide education, outreach opportunities to those interested in the urban and community forestry, and municipal staff charged with the care of the urban forest, create a community arboretum, thank you, for the benefit of all, work with local schools to encourage educational opportunities through the Arbor Day activities, and ensure the town earns the Society of Municipal Arborists accreditation. So it's just not planting trees. Thank you.
I'd like to thank the council for the explanation, because I think when you look at $1 million tree grant, people are gonna look at it with, I think it's a great grant because of what Council Adam just brought up, and I better understand why we can, and how we can use the money. I think it's fantastic.
Any further discussion?
I would just like to say one more thing.
Certainly.
To town manager. And you let me know that grant was sitting on the White House desk. I might have been able to say something about it, contact somebody about it, but you didn't let me know until it was already done.
Just,
That's all. Thank you.
I just respond. We didn't know it was in the Secretary of Transportation's office.
Thank you.
We didn't find out until the debrief of how far it went up.
All right, thanks.
But in the future, we just need support. I mean, that's the thing. We will support and go after any grant. Thank you.
Very good. Any further discussion on the item? All those in favor? Opposed? Unanimous of all present.
Motion adjourned.
So,
So moved.
okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Thank you so much.
We are adjourned.